started out yesterday, flew into the Baton Rouge airport, and for the first time packed my bike up into a box, got it to the airport, threw some pictures on there to essentially keep the luggage people happy. I knew it was going to be kind of a headache for them, so tried to entertain them a little bit with some fun drawings on the side, and hopefully that would lead them to take better care of my box. And it only cost $30 because it was under 50 pounds. That was pretty awesome. It arrived safely, opened it back up, and everything was in working order, put it together. As I was putting it together in the airport, there was a couple people that were pretty interested in what was going on. They came up and were just asking me what I was doing, and one lady was working there, and she said, well, be safe, had a very motherly aspect to her, which was really cool. And she even offered to take the big box, which I no longer needed, and she found a trash can somewhere for it, a dumpster, I guess. And another guy told me his name was David, and he recommended a hotel for me about 30 miles towards Natchez. So the ultimate goal of this trip is I'm kind of just in the approach section right now, but arrived in Natchez, Mississippi. That should happen later today, and go from Natchez to Nashville, Tennessee, along the Natchez Trace Parkway. It's a pretty popular route for bike packing, for bike touring, and it's kind of been a dream of mine ever since I've gotten into it. So yeah, really exciting. I'm not quite there yet, not actually to the start, but it's still an adventure. Another interesting thing that happened yesterday while I was riding, I got my drone out to take some footage. I was riding along, it was like this nice orchard, I mean you'll see it, and this like white fence along the side. So I was taking my drone footage and it turned out pretty good. And then I rode about a quarter mile further and there was the Dixon Correctional Facility. As I rode past, there was kind of this tower with cameras and like a solar panel and apparently speakers and a motion sensor, because as I rode past, it blared out, "You're trespassing, you need to leave the area immediately, you're on camera, you've been filmed." And at first I was like, oh my goodness, they must have seen me flying the drone or something, and they think I'm like trying to plan somebody's escape. But I think I just really overreacted, and I think it was just a motion sensor, and for whatever reason it triggered it and thought that I was, an intruder or something, I don't know. But nobody chased me down or took my drone away or anything, so I consider myself blessed. But yeah, just about to eat some breakfast, waiting for my oatmeal to soften up here, and maybe the rain will go away also, we'll see. But looking forward to actually starting the Natchez Trace and exploring the town of Natchez a little bit. I've heard it's kind of a cool place, so. Yesterday proved to be a pretty tough one. Rained on and off most of the day. Thankfully today seems to be a lot nicer. It's overcast, but it doesn't look like it's going to rain, although the forecast said it would, so that's a huge blessing. I'm excited for today. Not to mention I'll be riding quite a few less miles than yesterday. Yesterday I went 70 miles, and the last 10 were pretty tough. I wasn't necessarily hurting, but I was just physically all around pretty tired and ready to finish it off, even though the elevation gain wasn't that bad. I can say I've officially started the Natchez Trace Parkway, so that's really exciting. I went just about 10 miles last night and camped at Natchez State Park. Yesterday was really awesome. Got to see Natchez and the town of Natchez, Mississippi, which is right on the Mississippi River, so there's some pretty nice views, overlooks of the river. Yeah, downtown was just really cool, and got to see the visitor center, which had a nice overlook of the Mississippi River. I met another guy, Wayne, who had just finished up the Natchez Trace Parkway and actually didn't have the best things to say about it. He said that there weren't that many views, said it was pretty flat, which was nice, but he has done a lot of other bike touring, and so I guess the Natchez Trace wasn't that exciting for him. Wasn't that scenic, but so far I'm finding it to be really nice. It is very flat, and so far all the scenery has kind of just looked the same old trees, and just a pretty nicely paved road all the way through. But there's been some interesting stuff to see along the way. Not scenic, but historic, and yeah, just a lot of things that you wouldn't find on a typical route. So that's been pretty cool. I saw the Emerald Mound, which is a mound built, or I guess formed by the Natchez tribe, and it was kind of a holy, sacred site for them. And so that was a pretty interesting thing to just see, just this huge 8-acre mound, kind of in the middle of nowhere. I was looking at the GPS and it was saying another quarter mile, and I was like, there's no way, there's nothing here. But sure enough, there it was. And yeah, truly pretty interesting. Today's been pretty good so far. I've ridden about 20 miles already and decided it was time to have some breakfast. I left camp pretty early this morning, trying to get out and get some miles in before eating. But I met a pretty cool couple last night that was camping really close to where I was. Kind of the first trail magic, I guess you could say, road magic. They gave me some really cold water bottles, which is really nice because where I camped last night didn't actually have good water. There was water in the bathroom there, but when I put it in my hands to drink or to wash my face, it was like white and milky and gross looking. And so I was not about to drink that. And so I ended up I did take their 2 water bottles, which is really nice of them. Talked to them for a little while, and they'd been on the trace quite a bit. I'm headed into Jackson later today, and I've heard pretty sketchy things. Most cyclists that I've actually talked to, Wayne, that I first met in Natchez, and a couple guys I met today, and also a guy that I talked to before I came to the trace, said the traffic through Jackson is pretty bad, and they hate cyclists. So heard a lot of people talking about it, so not sure how that's going to work out, but I was advised to get through Jackson before mid-afternoon, so that is the goal. I think I finally figured out why Wayne had such a bad experience on the trace, and that was because he said he didn't take any food with him. He expected there to be a lot of places to stop along the way, and that is not true. Past 30 or 40 miles I've ridden, there's really not been much to stop for at all, and much less towns to go to. And even if there was a town, you'd have to ride quite a ways off the trace. So maybe he was just hangry the whole time. And I'm really glad I brought plenty of food, waiting for my oatmeal to soften up. And yeah, I've actually eaten really well so far. Gonna finish up at a reservoir today. Hopefully it's kind of a cool spot. I've heard it has good camping, so looking forward to that. And another overcast day, not too hot, not too cold. So another morning. This one seems to be a lot nicer. It's not as cloudy. I actually got to see the sunrise this morning. I had planned on staying somewhere near this reservoir, but it was super windy. I was fighting a terrible headwind all day yesterday, and yeah, I just didn't really feel like the reservoir was the right spot. And so I kept going. I looked on my map and saw that there was a picnic area, which isn't technically you're not technically allowed to stay at the picnic areas, but I just kind of had faith. Some of the other ones I had seen had good camping spots that nobody would really see you at. So I kept going. I got to this picnic area, and it's closed to traffic, but a bike could fit through the barriers that were closing it off. And it's pretty overgrown, and some trees have blown down, but there's this nice shelter and so I didn't even have to use a rain fly last night. I just threw down my tent. Today was planning to go to Kosciuszko, I think I'm saying that right, and resupply at a Walmart, stay at the visitor center there. They leave it unlocked so you can access bathrooms, Wi-Fi, water, all of that good stuff. But that's only 30 miles away, so I'm thinking I might just push and go further to another campground. So yesterday, I would say the highlight, like I said, it was very windy, 70 miles. It was a pretty hard day. I actually felt pretty good physically. But probably the coolest part of the day was the cypress swamp. There's this swamp, like black water, and these trees growing out of it, and it just really makes for a cool ecological feature. It was really interesting, and I guess there's actually alligators in there, but unfortunately I didn't see any. I was a little concerned, only staying about a half mile away from that place. Didn't have any issues last night. I was half expecting to see an alligator-shaped bite out of my food bag in the morning, but thankfully no. The sun is out finally, so that's really exciting. Hopefully some of my stuff will dry. Wow, what a day, what a time. Today has been absolutely insane. A lot has happened. I'm excited to talk about it, but I haven't even recapped yesterday. And I like to recap the day before because it keeps things a little more succinct, and I just tend to ramble a little less. I pushed for about 40 miles to Kosciuszko, and there's a visitor center. I dropped off my stuff there, and instead of biking, decided to walk the 1 mile to Walmart to do a resupply. And by the time I got back, there was another bike tour there, which is rare. It's really the first one I've seen since Wayne, which I met, who had just finished back in Natchez. So, talked to this guy some. He had a really nice rig, really lightweight setup. Showed me some of his gear. That was pretty cool. But it was just really nice to feel like I have some company out here, some other people doing the same thing. He was actually going southbound, so we just crossed paths for maybe half an hour and chatted, told some stories, and talked about our experience so far. But his name was Devin. He was a really cool dude. Said he had hiked some of the Appalachian Trail before. Just goes to show some of the cool people you meet out here. And in meeting him, I've learned there's 4 different types of people who travel the Natchez Trace. It's kind of a hierarchy. So first are the RVs and the trailers, basically glamping the whole way. It takes them like a day or two to finish the whole thing, which to me is just incomprehensible to be able to go through it that fast because I'm moving so slowly. Next, you have the van lifers, who I've shared quite a few campgrounds with. Some of them are pretty interesting folk. They kind of tend to keep to themselves, though. Haven't talked to very many of them, except for I did meet a couple today, which I'll talk about later. But next you have the motorcyclists, who are really just wannabe cyclists. Usually when I talk to them, they're like, man, I really admire you for what you're doing. So I feel like deep down, they wish they were me. And then there's the cyclists, of which there are very few. And I finally met one yesterday, and that was really cool. But yeah, we have it probably the hardest, I would say, unless there's people who walk the trace. So I pushed after Kosciuszko another 30 miles on to Jeff Busby Campground and had a great night camping there. Kind of got in a little later, but I took all the stuff off my bike and pedaled up to the top of this overlook where I was able to watch the sunset, and that was really nice. And then I bombed the hill coming back down, which was always fun. And it was a good place to camp. So it's been a great day today. I'll cover that tomorrow because don't want to just ramble on and on, but there's definitely a lot to talk about.